As any viewers of this show undoubtedly know, Kamala Harris spent the last many weeks of her campaign believing, apparently, that the way she would win the election is by hugging and touting the noble patriotism of Dick and Liz Cheney. In her presidential debate, which is where millions of Americans got their first look at Kamala Harris, she very excitedly touted the fact that she was so proud that she had the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and his daughter, Liz Cheney. She then took Liz Cheney around with her as though it were her running mate to all sorts of places in the Midwest that have been deindustrialized as a result of NAFTA and free trade and the corporatism of Bush and Cheney, who everybody remembers lied the country into war. Somehow they thought that holding up Liz Cheney as the standard bearer of Democratic Party politics would be electorally beneficial, including in Michigan, where one of their big problems was that huge numbers of Arab and Muslim voters were refusing to vote for them because of their support for violence in the Middle East, and somehow their solution was, oh, let's show them Liz Cheney. Liberal outlets have made Liz Cheney their hero, have heaped praise on Dick Cheney. And it's hard to overstate for people who didn't live through it, who don't remember it, who weren't paying attention back then, how intense and absolute was the Democratic Party hatred, the liberal hatred for Dick Cheney. And Liz Cheney she owes her entire political career to Dick Cheney, not because that's her dad only, although obviously that's a big part of it, but also because she supported every single one of his signature policies and still does, from the war in Iraq to torture and Guantanamo and rendition and CIA black sites. In 2020, she tried to block Donald Trump from withdrawing from Afghanistan. She has all those same ideologies, and yet the Democratic Party has decided that they love Liz Cheney. And if you don't believe that, and of course Democrats will deny that, liberals will deny that, no, it's not that we love Liz Cheney. We just formed an alliance with her because she opposed Trump. But the reality is that even Liz Cheney said the reason she and her dad supported Kamala Harris wasn't just because of January 6th and Trump's refusal to accept the result of the 2020 election, but also because she said that Kamala Harris and the Democrats' foreign policy is far closer to the Cheney families than the Trump-led Republican Party would be, and she's absolutely right about that. That's why neocons in general are integrated into the Democratic Party now. That is their ideology. It's a kind of a mesh of establishment dogma between the two parties over the years that has all consolidated behind the Democratic Party and away from Donald Trump. And in case you think that's an exaggeration, in case you think that I'm exaggerating, we showed you a couple weeks ago Joe Biden hanging from Liz Cheney's neck, not a noose, but a medal, the second highest possible medal that an American citizen can get from the president. And all those Biden staffers and liberals and Democrats filling that room stood up and screeched the way teenagers would if they see Taylor Swift. I mean, it was like the most sustained ovation, a standing ovation, but just it was so visceral. They love Liz Cheney. They cannot express their reverence for her enough. The president at the time was George W. Bush, and if you can go back and hear liberals talking about George W. Bush, you will quickly realize that nothing they're saying now about Donald Trump is new. And yet the Biden White House today, presumably from Joe Biden, in the name of Joe Biden, he announced this. Statement from President Biden announcing the names of CVN 82 and CVN 83. Those are new aircraft carriers. Quote, I am proud to announce that the next two Gerald R. Ford-class nuclear-powered aircraft carriers will be named for two former presidents, Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. When I personally delivered the news to Bill and George, they were deeply humbled. Each knows firsthand the weight of the responsibilities that come with being commander-in-chief. May God protect all who sail aboard USS William J. Clinton, USS George W. Bush, and every other ship in our fleet. Leave aside all the commentary about Bill Clinton, the fact that he's been credibly accused of sexually harassing women, of lying about it, even of raping them. a party that claims to take so seriously these kinds of accusations and yet has every 4 years invited Bill Clinton to speak in primetime at their convention and stood on their feet and cheered for him, when a tiny fraction of that behavior, when anyone else is accused of it, destroys their life and reputation. Leave Bill Clinton to the side, but George W. Bush. And the irony of naming an aircraft carrier after George W. Bush is that George W. Bush's most notorious moment came in April of 2023 when he did this absurd stunt of political theater when he flew a fighter jet onto an aircraft carrier and they unveiled that sign called Mission Accomplished, pretending that the Iraq War was over and had been won a month into the war, even though weapons of mass destruction had not been found. And obviously over the course of the next several months and the next several years, the entire country exploded. Thousands of American soldiers were killed. The war went on forever. Nothing was accomplished. So any kind of homage that's paid to George W. Bush by the Democratic Party shows just how completely craven they are to name an aircraft carrier the SS George W. Bush, USS George W. Bush, has that touch of irony that you could not invent. And I think it's so interesting to listen to the Democratic Party talk about how much they love Dick Cheney, how grateful they are to Liz Cheney, to constantly herald neocons like Bill Kristol and Ann Applebaum and David Frum as the most brilliant foreign policy thinkers and writers, and now to pay homage to George W. Bush. And then they have the audacity to turn around and say to people like me or to others, you've changed. Why have you changed? You're the ones heaping praise on George Bush and Dick Cheney and all their progeny. And all of those neocons who lied the country into war, who have massive amount of blood on their hands that are dripping and will be until they go to their grave and long after, are now the people who are your thought leaders, who are your favorite pundits, whose books you buy. And you have the audacity to turn around and say to others, how have you changed? The Democratic Party is now the party of the Bushes and the Cheneys. That's why George Bush's and Dick Cheney's formal spokeswoman, Nicole Wallace, is the most beloved liberal pundit on MSNBC after Rachel Maddow. That whole gang are Democrats. And they're not just Democrats following the Democratic Party, they're leading it. There's a merger because their ideology is the same. The Democratic Party was always fine with George Bush and Dick Cheney in reality, in private. Nancy Pelosi's daughter made a film in which she talked about how, even though they used to accuse each other of all sorts of things, George W. Bush and Nancy Pelosi loved each other and were extremely close personally, to the point where she considered, Nancy Pelosi's daughter did, George W. Bush to be a member of the family. But at least there was some public pretense of vitriol and disagreement. Now that's gone because they're absolutely on the same side. They've completely merged. I despise Dick Cheney every bit as much today as I did 20 years ago. It's the Democrats who are heralding his greatness and naming aircraft carriers after George W. Bush, not me. Did you resolve to get healthier this year as part of your New Year's resolution in 2025? If you did, great. If you didn't, you should think about it. So then the question is, how are you going to do it? With supplements? Okay, that's good. Some green fruit and vegetable drink? Fine. But then ask yourself, do any of these promise better health? They do not. What's the point of green drinks and health supplements if you aren't 100% confident that they'll improve your health? The Field of Green's better health promise makes it radically different. Listen to this. Enjoy a delicious field of green drinks each day, and at your next checkup, your doctor will notice your improved health, or you get your money back. How in the world can Field of Greens promise better health? Because each fruit and vegetable was doctor selected for a very specific health benefit for some part of your body, some vital organ. There's a heart health group, lungs and kidney groups, metabolism, even healthy weight. One day a drink is all it takes. You'll look and feel healthier with more energy fast. Your doctor will notice your improved health, or you get your money back. Get 20% off your first order with the code Glenn at fieldofgreens.com. That's code Glenn at fieldofgreens.com. Fieldofgreens.com. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.